position was, is you sell first. That was your position, right? And my position was you buy first. You ready?
Do this.
All right, here we are, episode 3, R&B real estate show. Tagline:
we are here helping you find your way home.
Perfect. Previously, we had chatted about, and it was our very first episode. We were talking about not disagreeing, or we were going to disagree, but wasn't sure it was going to happen in the first one. So the very first disagreement, and it's not necessarily disagreement, it's just coming at something from different ways, right? Different directions. But buying a house or selling your house, first, whatever.
What comes first, the buy or the sell? And what we're going to do, we're going to go into a couple scenarios, tell you about it. The honest answer is it depends. And that's why we're doing the show, is to kind of educate you and give you a sense of, depending on your situation and what you're doing, what does make the most sense.
Yeah, for sure. So in this crazy market, like this is one of the hardest markets to be in. It's wonderful to be a seller, right? Because you stick a sign on the lawn and you've got interest, right? It's just the way it is, right? You hire a professional real estate agent, you give them more interest, right? But you're being a buyer in this market is terrible, right? It's terrible. I was talking to a client last night and he's like, I don't want to get into this multiple offer things. Like, when am I going to buy? I'm like, well, you could wait until the market kind of like just softens, right? If you're not in a hurry, right? But regardless, no matter where you go, you're in multiple offers.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And so, a lot of people, like, they might want to move, but they're like, well, where am I going to go? It becomes very stressful to think, like, what is that daunting process? And is it the uncertainty of not knowing what home you're going to move into, or having to deal with the stress of, oh, my home isn't selling after the fact? Maybe you're moving from a condo, certain situations, like say you're downsizing. This is a great downsizing market where you can buy first. You could buy your bungalow, or you could buy your condo, and you could know that, yes, you're going to have to deal with competition and put in firm offers. And if you haven't bought a home in a very, very long time, then you're going to need direction from a realtor. But if you want the conservative approach, then you would sell first. And for many, many different reasons, you would sell first.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know. It's funny that you call that the conservative approach, and because I think it's not. But that's fine. Okay, let's look at you. Okay, do you want to plead your case? So, okay, your position was you sell first. That was your position, right? And my position was you buy first.
Yes, I would say,
generally speaking,
in my experiences, that in most cases, it's always better to sell first. Okay, you're going to know exactly what your buying power is. You're going to have an agreement of purchase and sale in hand that the bank is going to want in order for you to facilitate the getting your mortgage and also bridging financing.
And clarify that, bridging financing.
Bridging financing. Okay, so if you're looking at a discrepancy with your buying date and your closing date, and you've already sold your home, well, then the bank is going to give you a small loan during that period of time. So you could be paying, hundreds of dollars, or, maybe somewhere around $1,000 to bridge anywhere for a couple weeks. Hopefully it's not a couple months. And, obviously we want to line up the dates as much as possible, right? The other advantage would be that you're going to know exactly what your equity is. So you're going to have sold that home, and you're going to, if it's selling in multiples, and you're concerned that maybe it's not going to go up to 800, and all of a sudden then you get 830 or 840, well, then you're going to be a lot more aggressive when it comes to buying your home. So you're going to know exactly where you stand with the banks. So that if you're going into, and you're going to also see it firsthand, what competition looks like. Okay. Now, if you're selling a condo, condos might take a little bit longer to sell. It might be more stressful. It's eliminating that major stress of, okay, you've bought a home, but your home is not selling, or you didn't get out the equity that you thought you would. And now you're in that turmoil from a financial standpoint.
Those are all, very good points. And I don't disagree with those points, as an argument in and of themselves. So assuming that's your position, and I don't want to like, take it away from you. My position would be obviously the counter to that, right? So I'm finding that buying first, allows you to still have a home, B, figure out that you're not be in a rush, right? So, if you sell, in my position, if you sell your home, you now have a timeline. You have a deadline that you have to go and find a house. And then I guess, what did I say? ABC, 1, 2, 3. My third point is that in a rising market like this, you could very, very quickly be priced out of the market, right? If you're not finding your house, or you're putting in offers in and you lose, now all of a sudden the market is running away from you, right? I mean, if we look, we all know that the market has just been absolutely bananas right now. But I was pulling out the playing with the data just the other day. The market, I've actually got it here on my other screen just so I can reference it really quickly. The market is up, January to January. Where is it? Here it is. January to January on average, and they're talking Milton numbers here. Okay. Just for a second, 32.58%, right? Yeah. January to January. Mm-hmm. The median, because of course the average is going to take, the average is, the median is where you're going to get the most kind of numbers, whatever. 28%. So still, you're splitting hairs. That's a big increase. So if you're looking at like an increase of, 2 or 3% a month, right? Or actually more than that, 3-4% a month. If it takes you a couple of weeks, that, like, if your budget's 900,000, maybe within a couple of days, you got to be 910, 920, 930, 940. And if you've already sold your house, at least when you're buying, if you're chasing this, the value of your house is coming up with you, right?
I agree. Like if you're an aggressive consumer and you want to maximize your equity, then you can buy a little bit lower and you can sell higher. Mm-hmm. And where you're moving. Those are definitely great points for your case, right? You're going to know exactly what you bought and you can do that. But let's just say that you've now hit your head against the wall a few times. You're discouraged. You say, I'm no longer moving, right? Because there's that unknown, there's that uncertainty with, well, what is my home going to sell for? What's my equity? I don't know what I can afford, right? So you could have gone through that exercise a few times, lost, be discouraged, say, I'm not moving anymore. Or, I mean, this is just two different approaches. We've both done both, right?
Yeah.
So we know the positives and the negatives of both. So, I mean, I would want to know where I was moving to. 100% I would want to know where I was moving to. But if you're in a situation where you're a little more conservative and there's that uncertainty, then having that confidence of knowing your home sold and what you can afford and going through the process and competition is going to give you that vote of confidence.
Yeah. I mean, again, valid points. I'm just afraid that in this market for buyers, that if they lock in the sale of their home, then they have to go out there with number one, a deadline, and number two, a rising market. Right. And, they could be like saying, well, I'm looking for a 4-bedroom, 2-car garage, 2,200 or more square feet kind of thing. Right. Mm-hmm. And, you have a budget at that, and that when you sell your house, that budget is well within reach, no problem. But, the market's funny, right? You run into an agent that doesn't give you a chance to improve. You run into an agent that says, well, or some sellers that say, I was touched by, and we could talk about this another time. I was touched by a letter that a buyer wrote, and yeah, yours is the higher offer and yours is the better offer, but I was touched by these buyers. You could, there's any number of reasons why you might be a strong offer and you don't get the house, right? You felt like, I'm looking at market value and you're conservative. You say, looking at comps, I think that this is enough. I don't want to just, because you don't know what the other offers are, right?
No.
So you're like, I'm pretty sure this is going to get it. And it turns out that the other person got it. Right. Mm-hmm. And now you're like, oh, I missed it. And then I missed it and I missed it. And now all of a sudden there's this undue pressure on you and the market's running away. And now, you thought you could have afforded a 4-bedroom, 2-car garage, 2,200 square foot or more. And now you're down to a 3-bedroom, oh, the basement's finished, so I'll put a bedroom down there. Now you're down to a 1-car garage, right? Because the market just keeps on going and you're missing out, right? That would be my fear for clients. And I understand what you're saying. Like, you made some valid points, but the thought of being homeless or having to settle on something else that you didn't want, and then you're just like, well, why did I move? I was fine where I was looking to upgrade, and now I'm in the same or worse home and I didn't achieve my goals.
That is an incredibly valid point, and I give you a big tick for that one. I think that the reality is nobody wants to be in a situation where they're renting. There is the fear that the markets could change. Sure. Now,
that's another discussion, though, right? Why are you moving?
Oh, yeah. Well, another discussion would be all the different techniques that you would use for winning in competition. That is why we've had such a success for our clients. Yeah. But I think, like, looking at it, like, no, you don't want to be renting. You also don't want to be having the mentality that I'm going to cash out and rent, and then I'm going to buy a year from now, because I'm thinking that the markets are going down. In our last episode, we both clearly stated that we see that markets are going to continue to rise, right? We've seen a couple corrections, and a government announcement isn't necessarily going to change the market conditions. If you are definitely moving, then it really comes down to what you're selling, right? If you're in a condo, and in the condo market, maybe you want to get maximize that equity and you're priced a little bit higher, then you really should be selling that condo first if you're banking on every penny of that for your home. But I couldn't agree with you more that, like, you don't want to get priced out of the home that you want, right? And if you look at the stats with prices climbing, over 2% right now, you just said, like,
yeah, well, I mean, trying to do some, quick handy math, right? If medium sales prices are 28% increase, right? That's a little over 2% a month.
That's crazy,
right? Yeah. If you're going to average at 32%, I don't know what that math works out to be, but let's call that 2.8% a month, maybe something like that, right? That's okay. So then, while I think we both agree that the market will continue to rise, at least in my opinion, in the short term, you think it might go longer.
Maybe not at 20% a year, but
that's just it, right? This is an unsustainable growth. And actually, just a little nugget of kind of like info, the market actually came down from December, right? So it was relatively small. I mean, it was a few percent.
That's typical. You would always tell your investors best time to buy is in those dead of the winter months, November, December, January, right?
Yeah. And of course it makes sense. Like, we are, for the most part, a Christian country. So most people would celebrate Christmas. Yeah. And most people won't list their house around Christmas, but there's still buyers out there, especially people that don't celebrate Christmas. Right. So they're like, it's just another week of the year for them. They're out there on like, I got to buy a home, right? So inventory is low, demand can still be relatively high, right? So it makes sense that supply demand imbalance. You go back historically, you look at all the years in December, and sale to list listing to sale ratio is very high, like around 100% or more, right? In every December.
I always think of Scott McGilvery. I went to one of his key inspiring investment things, and I think every year he buys a home on like December 24th.
Yeah,
it's early
that's
Christmas.
Interesting that he would do that, because that's like, that kind of goes against the logic of, there's less supply. You'd pay more for it.
But you're looking at getting a deal. Maybe there's a home that's been sitting there, could have gone through a situation. Maybe he had some insider knowledge, but he's looking for that best value, right?
Yeah, maybe he feels like if someone has to sell in December, that they really got to sell.
Yeah,
maybe, right? Yeah, I mean, sure. There's different scenarios, there's different logic, right, to approach it. We touched a little bit on the condo market, right? Just kind of, the opener to this discussion was, it depends, right? It depends where you're going. Like, to your point, like if you're a baby boomer, you're looking to downsize and you're saying, well, I'm kind of cashing out, so I'm going to sell my expensive home and I'm going to buy something a little bit more affordable, a little cheaper, or going to, put some equity aside as part of my retirement, whatever the case may be, versus someone that's going the other way, selling a condo and moving, into the freehold, right? An upsizer. Those are two very different scenarios, right? Because the condo market, well, I don't know what you've been seeing down in Burlington there, but I'm sure it's been very similar. The condo market has picked up in the last couple of weeks, whereas
Burlington, it's picked up big time.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, this stuff was sitting on the market, but then the last couple of weeks, just boom, now you're multiple offers like crazy in the condo market too, right?
I was at a listing appointment in Toronto last night for a condo, and part of my relocation group, and they're moving to Ottawa. Okay. And so we were lining up the dates and looking at a strategy and a plan. And the reality is that they want to sell first. No, and again, they've got great equity. They could easily buy first,
right?
But it's the uncertainty of they've seen homes in their building that have taken a long time to sell.
Yeah.
Going quickly back to what you were saying about the upsizers or the downsizers, the conservative downsizers have seen the markets for the last 30, 40 years. They're traditionally in a position where they would want to sell and then buy, even though they're more in the driver's seat to buy and then sell, versus the upsizers, the people going up in the market. It's actually in many situations better for them to sell first and then to buy for their equity so that they exactly know what they can afford, versus they get caught. They got caught in a jam where, they've now extended themselves.
Yeah.
They've bought something more than they should have. Now they're pricing their condo out of market situation. Maybe it doesn't even get offers for a while. Now you're getting into that time crunch. And then you go back and say, okay, well, now we're in default. Now we've got what does that look like? We're begging for a mutual release so that we can have our deposit back.
Yeah. I mean, that would just be the absolute worst scenario, of course. But yeah, I mean, so on that note, I think in the last couple of weeks, this has changed a little bit, but if you go from, if someone is selling a condo and buying a freehold, that's kind of like the worst position you could be in, right? Because you're selling something that's, the demand just right now, I shouldn't say right now, but a couple of weeks ago, the demand wasn't there. And certainly if you're going to the Toronto market, right? Like we talked about this on a previous show, just about, one of the reasons why our market is exploding is people are moving out of Toronto. And a lot of those people are, moving out of the condo world, right? So, vacancy rates in Toronto have gone up substantially. I think it went up 5% or something like that. But the Toronto market, condo market, I apologize. The Toronto condo market is soft. So it's going to take you a while to sell there. And then you're trying to buy a freehold in the outskirts of Toronto where the demand is super high. You don't have any time to buy and it's going to take you a while to sell, right? That would be challenging. The best of the world would be if you're selling freehold and buying a condo. I mean, now you can sell like that and you can buy like that.
There you go. And the downsizers right now, if that's your plan and you're selling your family home and you're now ready to downsize into a condo, well, there's some beautiful luxury condos that you're going to know that you're going to, there might be one other offer. Like, let's face it, like some people might be hitting their heads trying to buy that townhome and they might know, okay, well, our option right now is a condo because they want to keep building that equity. They don't want to be forced into a situation where they're renting, right?
Yeah, no,
so,
absolutely.
There are people that might have hit their heads trying to buy a small freehold townhouse. Maybe they're looking at a condo townhouse, or they're having to look at a condo, an actual apartment. So it really comes down to what your buying power is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then that would lead us, we talked about it before, but that leads us to, preparing for, pre-approvals, getting approved properly, knowing what your buying power is, like you talked about, doing a constant update on the value of your condo or house that you're selling, whatever the case may be. You got to get like almost a daily, if not weekly, check the pulse. Hey, what's my house worth today? What's my house worth this minute?
Well, there you go. If you're talking about comparative market analysis, you don't want to be talking about a home from like 3 months ago. You want to be talking about a home from like 3 days ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to have your finger on your pulse with your realtor and say, what did that home go through?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're not having the privilege of being able to go through open houses right now. Previewing properties is difficult. I think that, I tell my clients that sometimes it does make sense for us to go, before we list your home, let's go and look at a couple comparables in the market, because the buyers are going out, they're going to be looking at your home and homes like this. Then let's all be on the same page. We're a team, right?
Yeah.
Andrew and I are a team. Part of the reason we're doing this show is so that we can educate ourselves more and educate the clients out there, anybody out there, from across Canada, maybe into the States, for what is the best thing to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the market it's as much as it's unique from, municipality to municipality, province to province, country to country. There's a lot of similarities, right? Like, we're in a coaching program that is it's a Canadian coaching program, but there's people all over the States as part of it. I've coached with an American coach in the past for a number of years that have members all across Canada as well. And so you get plugged into these networks and you talk to people about what their market is doing. And, as much as there's differences, there's a lot of similarities. So, like you said, having these discussions, you get exposed to other people's experiences as well. So that, when the first time you come up to an experience, it doesn't seem so foreign. Oh, Ross went through that. He was telling me a story about this happened to him. Like, I'll try that approach as my opener, kind of thing. Right. What works, what doesn't work, what have you had success with, what's been kind of flopping on you. Right. So, again, it's good to kind of like have these discussions and hear what other people's kind of like techniques are, right?
Couldn't agree more. I mean, like, looking at like a softer market, like, it's horrible, like Alberta, right? Mm-hmm. I know that a lot of clients out there, like, and I've got a great part of a network with Top Realtors Canada, where we've had a lot of people from Alberta where they've been in a real tough market for a few years. And some people are having tremendous success. Right. But if you're a seller and you're wanting to sell and you're moving to Toronto or other areas, right, then it's nice to have a generalization of, if markets turn, and we've seen our markets turn a few times, since I started back in 2009, coming out of that recession in 2008, that was a true buyer's market, and then seeing the shifts that have happened. Sometimes we're seeing things happen in different areas of the world, and it has a lot to do with economic stimulus. Like, for example, Alberta's probably losing a lot of jobs right now, right? So there's
well, they certainly did.
Yeah,
they certainly did. I think they're doing a half decent job of trying to diversify their economy. Mm-hmm. It's easy standing on the outside, criticizing, hey, this is what you're doing wrong. But from an outsider's perspective, like, they've been a one industry town for, too many decades. Absolutely. Right. And I think now that oil, it went down, and I think everybody just expected it to rebound within a couple of years or something like that, and just never has. I think at that point they're kind of realizing, okay, maybe we need other jobs, other industries. And I think they're doing a pretty good job of diversifying into finance and other sectors that are bringing some jobs back into the area. But I was chatting with you just the other day, just saying that I was watching something similar to this, right? It was just a meeting of a couple of realtors across Canada. It was Halifax, Waterloo, Calgary, and Kelowna, right? And every market was, three of the four markets were crazy, right? So multiple offers, bidding wars, get preemptive offers, all this kind of stuff. Markets going crazy. And while Calgary was certainly not in that boat, the gentleman had commented on a very specific shift from, say, like 6 months of inventory down to 4 months of inventory, right? And that goes from a buyer's market to a balanced market. So where the odd home that was really nice might have 2 offers on it, right? And that's a lot of activity. That's a favorable turn, right? So yeah, I think that diversification in the economy out there is doing well as well, right?
I was reading an article this morning, and I mean, we are going to come back to focusing on South Central Ontario. Like, obviously, Milton, Oakville, Burlington, but I was reading an article this morning on obviously Halifax, being out in Nova Scotia, waterfront property. You can get a beautiful place out there, waterfront, 250, 300,000. Right. Gorgeous. Could be a nice retirement option or something for someone, but there's still tremendous value to be had for maybe investment properties. We need to be thinking outside of, obviously outside of our area, and where the best options come. And on another point like that, one thing that I did want to say is with your buying power, sometimes you are having to move a little bit further west. And with the option now, or east, if you're in Toronto, maybe you want to go the other way.
Right.
But the options right now of if you are working more from home and traveling out, and we touched on this on our last shows, then maybe it is if you're hitting your head over and over again trying to buy a home in Oakville or Milton or Burlington, then maybe we need to be talking further out into Waterdown, into Hamilton, into Benbrook, which is not like, and if you got a family in schools, then that becomes increasingly difficult too, right? So
yeah, see, that gives me an idea. A future show. Let's do, what can you buy for? Right? Like
best deal in town or best deal in Canada.
Yeah. So whether it's the best deal or just like, okay, like what's somebody's buying power? There's lots of people that are saying, okay, well, my budget is, 700 or 500 or 600. Right. And, I've twice now in the last week, I've heard of people saying, I want to buy something and my budget's 400,000. And I'm just like, well, I hope you're okay with a 2-hour commute, because like, that's just not happening here. Right. I say that, a little tongue in cheek, but I think you have to be, kind of somewhat realistic as to what the market conditions are right now. And if your budget is, 600,000, 700,000, 800,000, 900,000, $1 million, right? What can you get for that? Right. I can either get
great for you and I to maybe do a promotion for a Zoom buyer seminar or seller seminar where we could actually be inviting an audience where they could kind of have a chance to ask us a bunch of questions. We could send them home with buyer information, seller information, so they could really get a chance to like ask us as many questions as they possibly could, so that we're giving them all those answers. Because as much as you and I can go back and forth, and we've seen so many scenarios, right? There could be a lot of questions, and no question is stupid, right? It doesn't matter. Like, well, my budget's only 400,000 and I want a townhome. Well, then, we've got to go back. Where are you okay to live, right? Like what community, where is it best for you to be for your family, right? So it's tough, right? We're in a tough market where it's sad that there are going to be a lot of people out there that might not be able to afford homes, right? We touched on our last show how there's 10 million millennials that are going to be entering the market. We talked a lot about a lot of foreign investors. I mean, we could both argue that Canada is the new country of dreams, right? It might not be the States as much anymore due to densification, right? There's a lot more opportunity in Canada. The Great White Hope. Come to Canada, everybody.
There you go. That's right. Some great ideas of future shows, and if reach out, you want us to talk about something, absolutely, just shoot us a message. Hey, have you guys talked about this before, or whatever the case may be. But of course, we'll just keep bringing out some different ideas, etc. So, I think in the interest of time and not having a 2-hour show again, I think we touched on that pretty well, right? Made our points for whether you buy first or you sell first. I think it really all depends, and I think there's different approaches, and I think everybody's going to have their own risk tolerances, right? So that really also will be a big factor, right? If someone is more conservative or is a little okay and has some money on the side or whatever the case may be, they might favor one approach over another.
And on that note, everyone, so what does come first, the buy or the sell? We would strongly recommend you contact your local realtor. Part of our job is to guide you, and for you to obviously take our advice so that you can see through our experiences what makes the most sense. So there is not one scenario. There are different options. So it does come down. I can think of clients in the past that they bought their dream home and then it became very stressful with the sale of their home. And that stress gets passed on to everybody. So You really do want to know what your buying power is. So contact Andrew Roach and his amazing team and his beautiful wife, or you can contact myself, Ross Bridges, and we are here to help you find your way home.
Perfect. Perfectly said. All right. Signing off until the next show. We got some more content coming your way, and thanks for listening.